Mark Twain is often remembered as the man who made the world laugh. But behind the humor was a thinker, a rebel, and a philosopher of human nature. Born Samuel Langhorne Clemens, he chose the pen name Mark Twain, a riverboat phrase meaning safe waters. But his mind was anything but safe. He challenged society, mocked hypocrisy, and questioned everything: religion, politics, morality, even human nature itself. To many, he was simply a comedian, but his humor was a weapon, a sharp blade disguised as a joke. Through laughter, he exposed the cruelty of slavery, the stupidity of war, the corruption of greed, and the absurdity of human pride. He used simple words to express dangerous ideas. He made people smile, and then made them think. Mark Twain once wrote, "Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect." He did not follow the crowd. He stood outside society and observed it like a scientist studying strange creatures. He understood people, their weaknesses, their lies, their dreams, and he told the truth about them in a way no one else dared. So, who was Mark Twain? A humorist? Yes, but also a philosopher of freedom, a critic of injustice, and one of the greatest voices of honesty in human history. He wore laughter like a mask, but behind it was a soul searching for truth.
Mark Twain was born Samuel Langhorne Clemens on November 30th, 1835, in the small town of Florida, Missouri. He grew up in nearby Hannibal, a river town on the Mississippi that later became the setting for the adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. Life on the Mississippi shaped his imagination forever. The river became his world, full of danger, mystery, and dreamlike freedom. His family was not wealthy. His father, John Clemens, was a strict and serious man who struggled with debt. His mother, Jane, was warm, humorous, and deeply compassionate, the kind of person who could find light even in hard times. Twain inherited her sharp wit and love for storytelling. But his childhood was not without sorrow. When he was 11, his father died suddenly, forcing Sam to leave school and work to support his family. He became a printer's apprentice, then a typesetter at a newspaper, learning the power of words while still a boy. In Hannibal, he saw both the beauty of river life and the cruelty of slavery. He watched slave auctions, heard human cries, and saw injustice up close, memories that haunted him and later drove his moral writings. Growing up on the banks of the Mississippi, he learned about life not from books, but from people: sailors, gamblers, runaway slaves, preachers, drifters, and dreamers. These early experiences became the soul of his stories. Twain's childhood was not just a time of innocence, it was the foundation of a voice that would one day speak to the entire world.
At the age of 12, after the death of his father, Samuel Clemens, later known as Mark Twain, left school to help support his family. His first real job was as an apprentice printer at the Hannibal Journal, a small newspaper owned by his older brother, Orion. He worked long hours, setting metal type by hand, ink staining his fingers, the smell of paper and machinery filling the room. It was here, among printing presses and scattered headlines, that a writer was born. He didn't have money, but he had access to something more valuable: books. Newspapers and printing shops received endless materials: articles, essays, humor columns, and classics of literature. Sam devoured them all: Shakespeare, history, travel journals, adventure tales. Every spare moment he read. And soon he began to write. His first writings were short jokes and humorous sketches slipped into his brother's newspaper anonymously. When readers found them amusing, he realized something powerful. His words could move people. Not by preaching, not by authority, but by wit, by speaking directly to human nature. The printing shop was his first classroom. It taught him discipline, simplicity, and the power of clear language. It was also a doorway to the world. Newspapers carried news from New York, London, Paris, Cairo, and beyond. Sam, who had never left Missouri, now dreamed of traveling far and living a life beyond the narrow streets of Hannibal. No one knew it then, but the quiet, curious boy working at the printing press was preparing for a lifelong journey. He was not just building a career, he was sharpening a voice that would soon speak to America and then to the world. In his late teens, Samuel Clemens found a dream that would shape his identity forever: the Mississippi River. He became a steamboat pilot, learning to navigate the treacherous waters of the great river. The job was dangerous, demanding, and thrilling, full of hidden sandbars, sudden storms, and shifting channels. One wrong move could sink the boat, drown passengers, or end a career in an instant. For Twain, the river was more than a job. It was a school of life. He learned discipline, responsibility, and the value of observation. Every bend in the river, every passing town, every human interaction became material for stories. Piloting a riverboat required patience and skill, but it also gave him freedom. He experienced a world untouched by conventional society, full of adventure, mischief, and risk. During these years, he adopted the pen name Mark Twain, a river term meaning 2 fathoms deep, a safe depth for navigation. The name reflected his identity, a man rooted in the realities of life, yet full of humor and insight. The Mississippi became the backbone of his imagination. Later, in novels like The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the river was not just a setting, it was a character, a symbol of freedom, danger, and the journey of life itself. Twain's years as a riverboat pilot gave him a unique perspective on human nature, society, and the subtle truths hidden beneath the surface of everyday life.
As the United States edged towards civil conflict, Samuel Clemens sought new experiences and adventure beyond the river. Though he did not see active combat in the Civil War, he briefly joined a Confederate militia, only to leave soon after, finding military life confining and pointless. He quickly realized that the world he wanted to explore was not on the battlefield. It was in the vast, untamed lands of the American West. Twain traveled extensively, journeying through Nevada, California, and the Rocky Mountains, working as a miner, reporter, and adventurer. These years were a mixture of hardship and discovery. He tried his hand at gold prospecting, failed often, and witnessed the lawlessness of frontier towns. Yet each failure, each encounter with fortune seekers, outlaws, and ordinary pioneers fed his curiosity about human nature. During this time, Twain honed his skills as a storyteller and journalist. He wrote letters, sketches, and humorous reports for newspapers, developing a voice that combined wit, observation, and moral insight. The vast landscapes and diverse characters of the West shaped his understanding of freedom, justice, and folly, lessons that would later echo through Roughing It and his other works. These years transformed Twain from a river boy and apprentice into a keen observer of life, a man who could capture the humor, tragedy, and complexity of America. He had become not just a traveler, but an explorer of both land and human character, ready to turn his experiences into stories that would captivate generations.
After his adventures in the West, Samuel Clemens returned to the world of writing, this time as a newspaper journalist. He worked for papers in Nevada, California, and later New York, reporting on everything from local events to travel experiences. Journalism taught him discipline, deadlines, and the power of connecting with readers. But it also gave him freedom to experiment with humor, satire, and storytelling. Twain's articles were never ordinary. He had a gift for turning everyday events into unforgettable stories, blending fact with exaggeration, comedy with moral insight. Readers laughed, marveled, and sometimes even questioned the absurdities of society through his eyes. His sketches were witty, sharp, and often critical of corruption, injustice, or human folly. Through journalism, Twain discovered his signature voice, honest, humorous, and fearless. He learned how to observe people, uncover contradictions, and convey universal truths with simple, clear language. The world of newspapers also introduced him to a wider audience, helping him build a reputation as a storyteller whose work was both entertaining and meaningful. It was in these years that Twain realized writing could be his life's purpose. Journalism was more than reporting. It was training in capturing the human experience, a craft he would soon transform into novels that would make him one of the greatest American writers of all time.
In 1865, Samuel Clemens achieved his first major literary success with the short story The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. Originally published in a New York newspaper, the story quickly captured the imagination of readers across America and launched his career as a recognized writer. The tale is simple on the surface, a humorous story about a man who trains a frog to jump, only to be tricked in a betting game. Yet beneath its comedy lies Twain's brilliant observation of human nature. He exposes greed, gullibility, and the absurd lengths people go to for pride or profit, all with a light, playful touch. Twain's voice shines in this story, witty, colloquial, and distinctly American. The local dialect, humorous exaggeration, and clever framing made it unlike anything readers had seen before. It was clear that Twain had a gift for capturing the rhythms of ordinary speech and turning everyday characters into unforgettable figures. The success of The Celebrated Jumping Frog did more than bring fame. It gave Twain confidence and direction. He realized that humor, grounded in keen observation and moral insight, could entertain while also revealing truths about society and human behavior. This story was the beginning of a literary journey that would eventually produce classics like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, works that would define American literature.
In 1867, Mark Twain embarked on a journey that would take him far from the Mississippi River, a voyage to Europe and the Holy Land aboard a cruise organized by a New York travel company. His experiences on this trip became the basis for his first major travel book, The Innocents Abroad, published in 1869. The book is more than a travelogue. It is a masterclass in humor, satire, and social critique. Twain observes the customs, manners, and pretensions of both Americans and Europeans with a sharp, playful eye. He mocks tourists, guides, and even himself while weaving in insightful reflections on culture, history, and human folly. Through his wit, Twain exposes the absurdities of society, the blind devotion to tradition, the pomp of authority,
and the contrast between perception and reality. He balances laughter with keen moral observation, showing that humor can be a lens to understand human nature and society. Innocents Abroad was an enormous success. It brought Twain national fame and established him as a writer capable of combining entertainment with intellect, humor with critique. It also set a pattern for his later works, taking ordinary experiences, observing the world with sharp eyes, and turning them into stories that are both hilarious and deeply meaningful.
Amid his rising literary fame, Samuel Clemens found stability and companionship in Olivia Langdon, a bright, wealthy, and deeply moral woman from Elmira, New York. They met in 1867, and their courtship was marked by letters filled with wit, affection, and shared ideals. Olivia became not only Twain's wife, but his closest confidant, editor, and moral anchor. They married in 1870, and the union profoundly influenced Twain's personal and professional life. Olivia encouraged his writing, advised on manuscripts, and helped refine his humor and social critiques without diminishing their sharpness. She also introduced him to refined social circles, exposing him to ideas, literature, and culture that expanded his worldview. Their life together was not without trials. Twain struggled with debts, business failures, and personal loss, while Olivia faced health problems and the challenges of raising their children. Yet their partnership remained strong. Olivia tempered Twain's impulsive nature, giving him the stability to continue his work and develop his distinctive voice, both as a humorist and a social critic. Through their marriage, Twain experienced love not as fleeting passion, but as lifelong companionship and moral support. Olivia's influence helped him balance the wit and satire that thrilled his readers with the depth and humanity that made his works timeless.
In 1876, Mark Twain published The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, a novel that would become one of the most beloved depictions of American childhood. Drawing heavily from his own youth in Hannibal, Missouri, Twain created a world filled with adventure, mischief, and the carefree spirit of youth. Tom Sawyer is a boy full of curiosity, imagination, and a love for freedom. He skips school, plays pranks, hunts for treasure, and falls in love, all while navigating the challenges of growing up. Through Tom's eyes, Twain captures the joy, innocence, and small rebellions that define childhood. But the novel is more than nostalgia. Twain uses humor and adventure to reveal the social norms, superstitions, and moral lessons of his time. He examines human nature, greed, cowardice, courage, and loyalty without losing the lighthearted charm that makes the story accessible to all ages. Tom Sawyer established Twain's talent for blending humor with keen observation of human behavior. The book celebrates freedom, not just from authority, but from fear and conformity, and reminds readers of the enduring power of imagination and adventure. Through Tom, Twain immortalized the spirit of youth, capturing the essence of childhood as a world of endless possibility.
Published in 1884, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn is often considered Mark Twain's masterpiece, a novel that combines humor, adventure, and profound social critique. Huck Finn, the protagonist, is a young boy who escapes the constraints of society and embarks on a journey down the Mississippi River, seeking freedom for himself and for Jim, an enslaved man. The river becomes more than a setting. It is a symbol of freedom, possibility, and moral testing. As Huck and Jim travel, Huck confronts the prejudices and hypocrisies of the society he has left behind.
He struggles with questions of right and wrong, morality and justice. Should he turn Jim in, as society demands, or help him escape? Twain uses Huck's internal conflict to expose the injustice of slavery and the flawed moral compass of America at the time. The novel's brilliance lies in Twain's ability to mix comedy with serious critique. Slapstick humor, colorful characters, and regional dialects keep the story engaging, while the moral dilemmas force readers to confront the deep issues of race, freedom, and humanity. Huckleberry Finn is more than a tale of adventure. It is a journey of conscience, a reflection on American society, and a call to question social norms. Through Huck's eyes, Twain challenges readers to see the difference between society's rules and true morality, making the book both timeless and revolutionary.
Mark Twain lived during a time when slavery, racism, and inequality were central to American life. Though he grew up in Missouri, a slave state, he developed a moral vision that challenged the prejudices and injustices of his society. His writing reflects a deep concern with human dignity, compassion, and the ethical responsibility to stand against wrongdoing. Through characters like Jim and Huckleberry Finn, Twain explored the humanity of those whom society dehumanized. Jim is not a stereotype or plot device. He is a fully realized human being, capable of love, fear, humor, and moral insight. Twain shows readers that slavery is not just a political issue, it is a moral and human one. Twain's ethical voice is subtle yet powerful. He exposes hypocrisy, cruelty, and prejudice with humor and satire, but he never softens the moral truth. Racism and injustice are wrong, no matter how society justifies them. In essays, speeches, and fiction alike, Twain called for empathy, justice, and the courage to question entrenched social norms. Ultimately, Twain's treatment of race and slavery is a testament to his belief in humanity above custom, conscience above convention. He used laughter and storytelling not only to entertain, but to illuminate the moral challenges of his time, and to inspire readers to see the world with clearer eyes and a kinder heart.
Mark Twain is remembered as one of the greatest humorists in history, but his comedy was never just for laughs. Satire was his weapon, a way to expose hypocrisy, injustice, and human folly. Through humor, Twain could entertain while forcing readers to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves and society. From small-town pranks in Tom Sawyer to the biting social commentary of the Gilded Age, Twain used wit to highlight greed, corruption, and pretension. He understood that humor has a unique power. It disarms, engages, and makes criticism palatable. By making people laugh, he also made them think. Twain's style combined clever exaggeration, irony, and vernacular speech. He captured the rhythms of ordinary people's language, creating characters who were both comical and deeply human. In doing so, he revealed the absurdity and contradictions of society while remaining relatable and entertaining. Comedy for Twain was not trivial. It was a tool for moral reflection and social critique. Through laughter, he encouraged readers to question authority, challenge injustice, and recognize the flaws in human nature. Twain showed that humor is not just amusement, it is a lens through which the world can be understood and improved.
Despite his literary success, Twain's life was marked by financial misadventures. He was not only a writer, but also an entrepreneur, investing in ventures ranging from publishing and real estate to inventions. One of his most famous investments was a typesetting machine, which he hoped would revolutionize the printing industry. Instead, it became a costly failure. By the early 1890s, Twain had accumulated debts totaling over $100,000, a fortune at the time. Creditors pursued him relentlessly, and he faced the very real possibility of losing everything he had worked for.
Twain described the experience as a humbling and painful lesson in human ambition, greed, and overconfidence. Yet even in financial ruin, Twain's spirit endured. Determined to repay his debts, he embarked on a world lecture tour, traveling to Europe, India, and Australia to earn money through public speaking. The tour was grueling, but it allowed him to honor his commitments and restore his reputation. These struggles with wealth and failure deepened Twain's perspective. He gained insight into the illusory nature of money, the dangers of overreach, and the resilience of human character. Through it all, he retained his humor, using satire and storytelling to reflect on ambition, greed, and the lessons of life. Twain proved that even in financial collapse, integrity and wit could endure and triumph.
Behind Mark Twain's humor and public persona lay a life marked by personal sorrow and family tragedy. Although he achieved fame and wealth, Twain endured the loss of several loved ones, including his beloved wife, Olivia Langdon, and 3 of his 4 children. These deaths left deep emotional scars, casting a shadow over his life and work. Twain's letters and later writings reveal a man grappling with grief, guilt, and the fragility of life. He often turned to humor and satire as a shield against despair, using wit to cope with pain, while also commenting on the ironies of human existence. The laughter he inspired was, in part, a response to his own suffering, a way to find light in the darkest moments. These tragedies also influenced his writing. Works like The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and The Mysterious Stranger reflect not only humor, but deep philosophical reflection on mortality, human nature, and the meaning of life. Twain learned to balance comedy with tragedy, creating stories that resonate with both joy and sorrow. Through personal loss, Twain discovered a profound truth: that human resilience, empathy, and humor are intertwined. The pain behind the laughter made his insights sharper and his stories more universal, reminding readers that life's hardships can coexist with wisdom, love, and laughter.
In 1889, Mark Twain published A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, a novel that blends time travel, satire, and social critique. The story follows Hank Morgan, a modern engineer from Connecticut who is mysteriously transported to medieval England. Armed with knowledge of science and technology, Hank confronts a society steeped in superstition, rigid hierarchy, and ignorance. Twain uses Hank's adventures to explore the clash between progress and tradition. The medieval world represents authority, blind faith, and unquestioned social structures, while Hank embodies reason, innovation, and common sense. The humor arises from Hank's attempts to modernize swordsmen, courts, and kings, often with disastrous yet comical results. Beneath the laughter, Twain critiques power, tyranny, and the misuse of knowledge. He warns that science and reason alone cannot solve human folly. They must be paired with ethics, compassion, and wisdom. The novel reflects Twain's lifelong fascination with human progress and moral responsibility, showing that enlightenment is as much a matter of character as it is of invention. A Connecticut Yankee stands as a testament to Twain's skill in mixing comedy with philosophy, entertainment with social criticism. Through Hank Morgan, Twain challenges readers to question tradition, embrace reason, and consider the responsibilities that come with knowledge.
Mark Twain was famously skeptical of organized religion, yet deeply interested in morality, justice, and the human condition. Throughout his life, he observed the gap between religious teachings and human behavior, and he was unafraid to criticize hypocrisy, dogma, and blind faith. Twain's writings often reflect this tension. In essays, letters, and works like Letters from the Earth, he challenged literal interpretations of Scripture, questioned divine justice, and exposed the ways religion could be used to control, manipulate, or oppress. He did not reject morality or spirituality. Rather, he demanded that faith be genuine, compassionate, and rational. His humor became a weapon against pretension. Satire allowed Twain to highlight contradictions between words and actions, showing how institutions claiming moral authority often acted selfishly or unjustly. He believed that true ethics arose not from ritual or dogma, but from empathy, reason, and conscience. Twain's war on hypocrisy was not simply rebellion, it was a call for integrity, honesty, and reflection. Through his sharp wit and fearless critique, he urged readers to question authority, embrace moral responsibility, and recognize that truth and virtue transcend religious labels. His philosophy remains a challenge and inspiration to those who seek to live honestly in a complex world.
Mark Twain was not only a keen observer of American life, he was also an avid traveler, exploring continents and cultures far beyond the Mississippi River. From Europe and the Middle East to India, Australia, and the South Pacific, Twain journeyed widely, collecting experiences that would fuel his writing with vivid detail, humor, and social insight. His travel writings, such as The Innocents Abroad and Following the Equator, combine adventure, satire, and keen observation. Twain was never content with merely describing landscapes or landmarks. He examined the people, customs, and contradictions of each place. He poked fun at pretension, cultural arrogance, and bureaucratic absurdities. Yet, he also celebrated human resilience, ingenuity, and curiosity. Travel broadened Twain's perspective, allowing him to see the universal traits of humanity across borders. His humor became sharper, his social critique deeper, and his understanding of human nature more profound. Whether describing a bustling European city or a remote village in India, Twain captured both the comedy and tragedy of life with equal skill. Through his journeys, Twain proved that storytelling is a window to the world. His travels were more than adventures. They were an exploration of human behavior, cultural diversity, and the enduring quirks of life that make his work timeless and universally resonant.
Beyond literature, Mark Twain had a lifelong fascination with science and technology. He was curious about inventions, electricity, and the ways innovation could transform society. This curiosity led him to an unexpected friendship with Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor and electrical engineer. Twain met Tesla in the 1890s and was captivated by his demonstrations of electricity and wireless technology. He often visited Tesla's laboratory, marveling at experiments with alternating currents, electric lights, and even Tesla's attempts at mechanical devices. Twain was not just a spectator, he actively engaged with technology, experimenting himself and incorporating his observations into lectures and writings. Twain's fascination with inventions also extended to his own creations. He patented several mechanical devices, including a typesetting machine and a self-pasting scrapbook, though not all were commercially successful. His experiences with technology reflected his humor, creativity, and willingness to embrace curiosity despite risk or failure. The friendship with Tesla symbolized Twain's embrace of progress and modernity. He admired the potential of science to improve lives while maintaining his signature skepticism and wit. Through these interactions, Twain bridged the worlds of literature and innovation, showing that a keen mind can be both creative and inventive, humorous and inquisitive.
In the last decades of his life, Mark Twain experienced a complex mixture of fame, personal loss, and reflection.
While he was celebrated worldwide for his novels, lectures, and humor, he also faced tragedy and sorrow, including the deaths of his wife, Olivia, and 3 of his children. These losses cast a shadow over his later years, giving his wit a sharper, sometimes darker edge. Twain continued to write and lecture, producing essays, memoirs, and novels that revealed a more contemplative, philosophical side. He explored morality, society, religion, and human folly with a blend of humor and penetrating insight. Even as he aged, his voice remained bold, honest, and unflinching, willing to confront injustice, hypocrisy, and human weakness. Financial struggles earlier in life had taught him resilience, and he approached his later years with a mixture of pragmatism, curiosity, and reflection. He corresponded with thinkers, scientists, and writers around the world, maintaining a keen intellect and an unyielding interest in human progress and understanding. When Mark Twain passed away on April 21, 1910, he left behind a legacy far greater than any wealth or title. His works endure as timeless stories of adventure, morality, and humor, illuminating the human condition. Twain's final years were a testament to a life fully lived, rich with experience, laughter, sorrow, and above all, the pursuit of truth through the lens of wit and wisdom.
Mark Twain was not just a humorist, he was a keen observer of humanity, a critic of society, and a philosopher in disguise. His words continue to resonate, offering wisdom, insight, and laughter. Here are some of his most memorable quotes. On life and human nature, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. Truth is stranger than fiction, but it is because fiction is obliged to stick to possibilities. Truth isn't. Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. This is the ideal life. On humor and writing. Humor is mankind's greatest blessing. The man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. Against the assault of laughter, nothing can stand. On society and morality. It is curious that physical courage should be so common in the world, and moral courage so rare. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. On adventure and curiosity. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines. Sail away from the safe harbor. Catch the trade winds in your sails. Explore, dream, discover. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. Mark Twain's quotes are more than clever sayings. They are guides for living, reminders to question authority, value honesty, embrace curiosity, and meet life with both humor and courage. His words continue to inspire, entertain, and illuminate the human spirit across generations.